again. I'm back, and I'm continuing with our story elements this week. On Tuesday, you read a book, or I read you a book, Pig Pug, I believe, the Fibber, and we talked about characters and setting, and we did that, Matt. And then yesterday, I read to you The Day the Crayons Quit, and we went and did the Matt on problem and solution. So I'm kind of trying to tie in together all the story elements, and eventually this becomes like a story map. So it's like when we map out a book and map out a story, like when you're going to go on a trip, you map out your route and where you're going to travel to. That's kind of the same thing with a book. It's like we kind of map out the book and what we're reading and just kind of make it meaningful to us, because that's what books are for when we read. They're to bring us joy and to make us laugh, but also to teach us things and just to help us learn new things. So this mat today is a BME. So whenever, and parents, this is for you too, whenever you see me comment on anything that just put a capital B, capital M, capital E, it just means beginning, middle, end. It's just a shortened way to talk about beginning, middle, end. So we're going to kind of take what we've done on characters and settings, problems and solutions, and put it into beginning, middle, end. Because within this story element, beginning, middle, end, we're going to pull all those other elements that I taught you. Characters and setting and problem solution will all be pulled from that and incorporated into beginning, middle, end. So beginning is exactly what it states. That's what happens first. The middle is what happens next. The end is what happens last. So the book I'm going to read to you today is called Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. And this is by Judith Verist. And I'm going to be focusing on incorporating our beginning, middle, end from this story. I went to sleep with gum in my mouth. And now there's gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed this morning, I tripped on a skateboard, and by mistake, I dropped my sweater in the sink while the water was running. And I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. You look closely at his face. He's not happy. And his face has the same expression throughout most of this book. At breakfast, Anthony found a Corvette Stingray car kit in his breakfast cereal box. Nick found a junior undercover agent code ring in his breakfast cereal box. But in my breakfast cereal box, all I found was breakfast cereal. I think I'll move to Australia. So he says, not fair. My brother's got a toy in their breakfast cereal. What about me? In the carpool, Mrs. Gibson let Becky have a seat by the window. Audrey and Elliot got seats by the window too. I said I was being scrunched. I said I was being smushed. I said, if I don't get a seat by the window, I'm going to be car sick. No one even answered. I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. That is something that is repeated throughout the book. That's that repetition that we'll start to hear in the book. At school, Mrs. Dickens liked Paul's picture of the sailboat better than my picture of the invisible castle. At singing time, she said I sang too loud. At counting time, she said I left out 16. Who needs 16? I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, and you can repeat with me, no good, very bad day. Nothing is going Alexander's way, is it? I could tell because Paul said I wasn't his best friend anymore. He said that Philip Parker was his best friend and that Albert Moyle was his next best friend, and I was only his third best friend. I hope you sit on a tack, I said to Paul. I hope the next time you get a double-decker strawberry ice cream cone, the ice cream part falls off and the cone part lands in Australia. He likes to refer to Australia. I think because Australia is so far away from where we are. So he's trying to say on the other side of the world, everything's better than it is for me here. There are 2 cupcakes in Philip Parker's lunch bag, and Albert got a Hershey bar with almonds, and Paul's mother gave him a piece of jelly roll that had a little coconut sprinkles on top. Guess whose mother forgot to put in dessert? Uh-oh, it was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Again, notice his face. Still not coming out of that funk. He's still pretty down and not happy. That's what it was, because after school, my mom took us all to the dentist. Dr. Fields found a cavity just in me. Come back next week and I'll fix it, said Dr. Fields. Next week, I said, I'm going to Australia. Only one cavity out of him and his brothers, and it's him. Sometimes we do have days like that. Sometimes you'll wake up, it's kind of an expression, on the wrong side of the bed, and just feels like everything you do, nothing goes right. I've had days like that too. And sometimes that just happens, and it's kind of a bummer, but he's not helping himself come out of it, is he? He's not really trying to look positively on things. On the way downstairs, the elevator door closed on my foot, and while we were waiting for my mom to go get the car, Anthony made me fall where it was muddy. And when I started crying because of the mud, Nick said I was a crybaby. And, oh, his brothers call him a crybaby. I wonder what he's going to choose to do. And while I was punching Nick for saying crybaby, my mom came back with the car and scolded me for being muddy and fighting. I'm having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, I told everybody. No one even answered. They didn't seem to care in his eyes, did they? So then we went to the shoe store to buy some sneakers. Anthony chose white ones with blue stripes. Nick chose red ones with white stripes. I chose blue ones with red stripes. But then the shoe man said, oh, sorry, we're all sold out. That made me buy plain old white ones. But they can't make me wear them. Ugh. He says, no way. Didn't even get the shoes they wanted, but forget it, not wearing them. When we picked up my dad at his office, he said I couldn't play with his copying machine, but I forgot. He also said to watch out for the books on his desk, and I was as careful as could be, except for my elbow. He also said, don't fool around with this phone. I think I called Australia. My dad said, please don't pick him up anymore. It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Oh, look at the mess at Dad's office from them. I have 3 boys of my own. I don't think my husband would ever want me to bring them to his office. When they were little, at least. There were lima beans for dinner, and I hate lima beans. Ugh. There was kissing on TV, and I hate kissing. Oh, look at that face. It's just not getting better, even when he got home. My bath was too hot. I got soap in my eyes, and my marble went down the drain. I had to wear my railroad train pajamas. I hate my railroad train pajamas. He says, probably thinks he feels like a little baby, like babyish maybe for him. When I went to bed, Nick took back the pillow he said I could keep. And the Mickey Mouse nightlight burnt out and I bit my tongue. The cat wants to sleep with Anthony, not me. It has been a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. My mom says some days are like that. I don't think it's that mom didn't care, anyone didn't care. There's just sometimes it's like that just happens sometimes, even in Australia. So I wanted to keep going to Australia to get away from this bad day, but that happens anywhere. Sometimes you're having a bad day. It doesn't matter where you are. It's still going to be a bad day. So maybe he should have taken some, thought maybe a little bit more positively about things and things could have gone better. Sometimes when things start off really bad, you just have a hard time thinking outside of that gray zone. So sometimes you just kind of create the bad day by continuing to think down. Okay, so when you fill out your mat, the green part says beginning, and there are some questions there to help kind of guide your thinking and to help organize your thoughts. Who are the characters? What is the setting? That's what we pull from for our beginning. Characters and setting, just like we did on Tuesday. Middle, what happens to the characters? What happens in the problem? The problem is introduced in the middle. So you kind of take the characters from the beginning, you incorporate that characters in the middle with what problem happened with them and kind of what the characters went through. end, what is the solution? How did the characters change? I kind of talked about how characters change throughout the story, kind of how they act, how they behave, and then maybe how they solve a problem. So the end is where your solution comes in, and that's where the change of your character comes in. So my example says, the beginning, a boy named Alexander, his brothers, and parents. The story takes place during the day at Alexander's house, school, and city where he lives. So I stated my characters and my setting. My middle, I started kind of going into detail about my character, Alexander, and then brought the problem in. Alexander woke up with gum in his hair and tripped on his skateboard. He knew it was going to be a horrible day from there on. As the day progressed, nothing seemed to be going right for Alexander. He said he was going to move to Australia. Now, I could have listed all the things he went through in the book that made it a bad day, but when you're trying to write a summary or tell me about the book, you only have to pick out those main important parts. So I gave a few details about what happened that was bad, and then went on to say his whole day kept getting worse. So I didn't have to say I don't need to list everything. And what is the solution? How did the character change? Bad things kept happening to Alexander the rest of the day. And when he got home, he had lima beans for dinner, and he hates lima beans. He had to wear his railroad train pajamas, and he hated those pajamas too. He was still angry, but his mom said, some days are just bad days, even in Australia. And then he went to bed. So I wouldn't say there was a big, huge change that made a solution, but his mom, I think, kind of helped him through it by just saying, you know what, Alexander, sometimes days are like that, and we just have to accept it. And so he went to bed to try to sleep it off and hopefully wake up tomorrow and have a better day. So I want you to kind of take what we did from Tuesday's lesson and Wednesday's lesson and then incorporate it into the beginning, middle, end for this story mat. Okay? Bye, friends.